Is some of it starting to make sense? But there's still so much mystery. How is that possible? We beat the game, didn't we? But we never found a door that carries a knife. Now it is time. Let our game continue. So the new news here is that this time we will begin with memories. You will start from the beginning of the game with information from previous playthrough. Would you like to overwrite the save data? Yes. Data overwritten. So some parts of this we won't have to experience again. We'll see what that means together. We've seen this part before. I'm waking up in a bunk. Am I in a ship? Is that a door that says 5 on it? Why won't anyone let me out? What's with this bracelet? It won't come off. I'm remembering, oh dear. And now, water is pouring in. I do still have to find my way out of all of these same rooms, but now I can do it on fast forward because I know what I'm looking for. As long as I can remember what I'm looking for. Can't do anything with that yet. I get the key. I catch myself in the mirror. I look like shit. I remember my cheap apartment with the open door and the man in the mask. Okay. Okay. Oh, wait. I got some innovation here. I had not done this before. Yes, it does. Okay. That... Oh, this makes this whole thing a lot easier, actually. Well, it is easy. So blue is... 02 63. Right? Yep, 0263. Let's go do blue. Oh, come on. Red is, now recall, it's like that one, starts at the bottom left. Seven, 4. Seven, 4, 8, 5. Nope. 6, 4. Shit. Okay. 5, 7, 4, 8, 5. Why did I push reset? I'm gonna get the rest of them and I this. And then okay. Why do I keep pushing back? You found it! And then I run out, and it's that scene from Titanic. And the water floods. Oh my god, C deck, B deck. I'm running up. I meet the people. There's so many of them. Silver, lion, red, prince, mountain, bird's nest. I'm making up names for them because I don't know what else to call them. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. We can't bust through any of these doors. There's something going on with the doors. I recognize her. She trips and lands on me. I know her from elementary school. I remember all this. I already know all this. Zero is telling me about the rules of the game. But we already know the rules of the game. We don't know who Zero is. It'll stop skipping everything once I get to something new. This is all old. We already remember this. We already have these memories. Curse your sudden yet inevitable betrayal. It still happens. He still goes for it. He still freaks out. Someone lied. It was him, he killed me, and then he explodes. I'm still... care for it. She has her odd fever. This is just facts. Zero said that everyone who had verified. All those who enter must leave, and all who enter must contribute. Right? He gets a secret extra bonus point with his braille that explains the red and the dead. Which, boy, if this would have been like Cube and he would have been killed right away, we would have been absolutely effed to not know about that. I think I must. Honestly can't remember when I played this before if I did this skipping thing before. Wait. I think I must have, just because otherwise I would have gone fully mad. But based on what I'm like, how can you prove that I didn't? Yeah, once again, I'm sticking with June. I'm wondering if I can do one where I stay with June the whole time, maybe? We'll see. They make it through. And so we decide to go through our door as well. We're through. We panic because we can't find the red. Alright. Now we basically remember what we're looking for here, right? We need these matches so we can light that candle. I mean, I know how Junpei feels about June, so I'm gonna stick with it. I find this anime nonsense obscenely charming. You find the map up here, and that's great and it's helpful. Do you think this boat is, I'm gonna say a dumb thing, the actual Titanic? The actual Titanic? You mean it like slipped through time and ended up here? Before the ship sunk on April 14th, 1912? Huh? What the hell are you smoking? Huh? Did I get it wrong? Junpei grinned and shook his head. No, that's not... I mean, come on, slip through time? Seriously? I was talking about the controversy surrounding the Titanic. Controversy? What do you mean? Haven't you heard of it? It's pretty famous, you know. The Titanic has a sister ship that was essentially identical. It was called the Olympic. Oh yes, I have heard of that. If I remember correctly, the Olympic was a ship that had a lot of problems, and the company that owned it didn't know how to get rid of it, right? So they made the Olympic up to look just like the brand new Titanic. And then they sunk it on purpose. That's right. They also took out a huge insurance policy on it before it set sail. That would mean that the real Titanic never sank. Yeah, the ships got swapped. The real Titanic was renamed Olympic in secret and was used as a passenger ship for more than 20 years. Hey, wait a minute. Wouldn't that mean it retired in 1935? Huh? Well, yeah, I guess sometime around then, yeah. Well, what happened to it after that? I heard it was dismantled. Dismantled? Then it doesn't matter, does it? Whichever boat the real Titanic was, it doesn't exist anymore. It was either retired and dismantled or sunk in the Atlantic by a curse. But then that would mean that this ship is... Wait, what did you just say? Huh? Sank in the Atlantic because of what? The curse. A curse is a curse. This one is the curse of the Egyptian mummy. She told me this story before. There was a mummy in there and that... that's stupid. I don't buy it. It's true! How can you be so sure? That mummy wasn't just a normal mummy. It was really mysterious. Totally unbelievable. What is so unbelievable about it? Just different. This is the mummy that wouldn't freeze. Wooden cupboard, nobody cares. Dresser. Nothing on the inside. Alright. Now I don't think I'm gonna look at this. Oh. Oh. Hey, Junpei, you got a minute? Hey, Junpei, you got a minute? Santa had shown up out of nowhere and gave Junpei no small start. I'm gonna... Here, take this. Santa pulled something out of his pocket. It looked like a bookmark. It had a 4-leaf clover in it. No, you know what? I've seen this before. We will see it again. But not now. Why would you not take it? Alright, I'll take it. You mean like play the stock market? Nah, that's not what I mean. Why the hell would you think that? Yeah, I do stocks too, but... His last statement, more or less thrown away by Santa, caught Junpei very much by surprise. You? A stockbroker? Yeah. Got a problem with that? No, you just don't look like the type. What Junpei didn't say, of course, was that he didn't think Santa looked smart enough to be a stockbroker. Man, that stuff's just like gambling, you know? All you gotta do is bet on the winning horse. Nothing that hard about it. You sure sound pretty confident. So you're betting on winning horses? Of course I am. You remember a couple years back when the stock for Cradle Pharmaceuticals shot through the roof? Stacked a few bills over that, if I do say so myself. Uh-huh. What an auspicious company to reference, Santa. Uh-huh was all Junpei could think of. He'd never even heard of Cradle Pharmaceutical. But we have. Fortunately, he was saved quickly from further embarrassment. Hey, how long are you going to stand around wasting time? Stop screwing around. The voice screaming at them from the other room was unmistakably Lotus. Junpei and Santa looked at each other. The lady has spoken, Santa sighed. We'd better get back to work before we really piss her off. I don't want her beating me up. And with that, Santa walked off slowly. Hey, wait. We weren't done. He started after Santa, intended to catch him, but... Lotus appeared from the next room, blocking his path. Her posture suggested she was not about to let him pass. There was nothing for it. He had lost. Okay. I'll get back to work, damn it. Her glare suggested any other choice would not have ended pleasantly for him. Junpei mumbled to himself under his breath and went back to his search. Oh, wait. Mars. The theory of telepathy. Guess it looks like... I mean, it's true now that I know. I can't see it as anything other than a dog. And neither can you. Now we're in the kitchen. We found a map. And if we get out, we'll be on the other side of the grate. But first we have to get out. Remember what the whetstone's for? Have you ever heard the story that the sinking of the Titanic was predicted? Yes, I have. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. There was a novel that had a bunch of stuff in it that described the sinking of the Titanic before it actually sank. Yeah, that's the one. The title of the novel is Futility. It was written 14 years before the Titanic sank. But I know. I mean, I didn't know the name of the book, but the story was the same, right? It was just like what happened on the Titanic. Yeah? Well, I heard it was all a hoax. A hoax? I heard that the stuff that matched up to the Titanic so well was actually added after it sank. Apparently, the only thing that was the same originally was that a boat ran into an iceberg and sank. But the novel was published in 1898, 14 years before the accident. Like I said, that was the first print of the book. 14 years later, the author heard about what happened to the Titanic. He figured that was his chance, you know? He just went back and changed some stuff in his novel, so that it matched the Titanic exactly. Surprised by Junpei's response, June seemed rather taken aback. Really? Really? There's no such thing as premonitions or any of that stuff. For a moment, June looked very unhappy, more so than Junpei thought was normal for such a discussion. But it lasted only a moment. With no apparent reason, she suddenly looked up at him alarmed. But, that wasn't the only book that predicted the Titanic sinking. It wasn't? Yep. And then there's the other one. And the theory that the person who was writing was possessing himself 20 years in the future. Oil. Remember? We can open it. Now we can get in. And then we can get stuck. I wonder why it doesn't turn into a liquid first. I want it out of the freezer. Now. His patience was wearing thin. How the hell would I know? And how the hell is that going to help us get out of here? We don't have time for this crap. Actually, Junpei stopped mid-sentence, surprised by June's interjection. Under enough pressure, carbon dioxide will turn into a liquid. This isn't really a good time for a chat about science. But I was wondering the same thing. Wondering what? Wondering why carbon dioxide doesn't turn into a liquid unless it's under pressure. Right? Just seems weird. Water's a liquid between 32 degrees and 212 degrees. So why isn't that the case for carbon dioxide? H2O and Cr2 are pretty similar. No, they're not. They're totally different substances. Look, guys, if we keep this up, we're just going to freeze to death. You good with that? You want to die talking about sublimation and gases? Because I sure don't. He fixed both of them with a glare. Now let's get back to work, assuming you don't want to end up like a pair of ice sculptures. Junpei turned around, the problem dealt with. Or so he thought. There's a kind of ice that doesn't turn into liquid when it goes above 32 degrees. I heard about it. Its melting point is 96 degrees. Its melting point is 96 degrees? You mean there's water that freezes at 96? Yeah. Well, you could also look at it as ice that won't melt until it's 96 degrees. Water that freezes at 96 degrees. Ice that won't melt until it's 96 degrees. That's interesting. Junpei had to ask. So what's this ice with a melting point of 96 degrees called? I heard it's called Ice 9. Ice 9. Ice 9 is from the Vonnegut book. I think the book is Cat's Cradle. Then she starts talking about the glycerin. Never crystallized ever until one time it did. And then suddenly all the glycerin in the world learned how to crystallize. Fork. Sturdy rope. Water bottle. I'm going to kind of rush through these because I remember the puzzles. And the puzzles that I do remember, I'm going to rush through. Thank you, Fletcher. Come on. C plus 10 plus F. If I'm remembering, C is 12 plus 10, which is 16, plus F, which is 15, 43. So this is the other way that other people went. So now we're in the big hospital room. And none of the doors open. Okay. I'm going to clock back in here because the rest of Snake's team did look rather surprised. How did you end up here? We catch them up. You followed the voices and came back here. Indeed. And that was how we found you. Junpei examined the 3 reds again just in case. On the bottom of each was a long, thin gap. It looked like a slot for something, probably something electronic. So I'm clocking back in here because this is a part that I still don't understand. We've come into this room, there's 3 doors, none of them work. We all split up to look for a way to get them to work again. And then when we come back, they all work and Snake is gone. So right now, we're just getting to the part where the reds don't work. If the red is inactive, we can't keep going. Well, what about that hallway over there? Is there anywhere else we can go? No, there isn't. There are plenty more hospital rooms, but nothing else. Hospital rooms? That's what's behind all those doors? Yes. There are a number of individual rooms in addition to this large one. There was a door at the end of the hallway, but it was locked. There was an astrological symbol engraved near the keyhole, however. I was able to get a good, feel of it. I believe it was the symbol of Jupiter. Oh, I made him too loud now, didn't I? Yes, I did. There we go. Not again. Those goddamn things are everywhere. I wonder what they all mean. For a moment, everyone was silent, deep in thought. While we're asking what things mean, what's the deal with this room? I mean, I thought this was a cruise ship, but I can't imagine a cruise ship would have a hospital like this. Of all people, it was Seven who answered, and with calm confidence. Well, I figure it's probably a hospital ship. Chances are it's the Gigantic. The Gigantic? Titanic, Olympic, Gigantic. Junpei looked confused. So did everyone else. But not Jerry this time. What is this Gigantic? Seven explained. The Gigantic. He explained that she had been a sister ship to the Titanic. We talked about this. We have these memories. We know about Lord Gordain. We know that someone bought it. He's still not sure. His memory isn't back. But now, it's midnight. How on earth do you propose we do that? We've looked everywhere in this room. That only leaves one place to look. One? Well, I guess that's not really right. Wait! Don't tell me you mean we need to search all of the other rooms. Don't freak out. We already searched 4 of them. 4 rooms. Just have to split up the rest between the 8 of us. Each person does 6 rooms, that'll be 48 rooms, right? So there are 48 rooms left? Her early experiences had apparently not encouraged Lotus to trust Seven. Seven scratched his head awkwardly. I don't know. After a little more discussion, they split up and headed toward the rooms to begin searching them. Junpei was chosen to search the rooms on the starboard side, moving from fore to aft. They also determined when they would return to report their findings, the next time the clock sounded the time. When it did, they would meet back in the large central room full of beds. If, during their search, any one of them were to locate the missing components, they were to yell for the others. If this strategy failed, they'd return to discuss their options later. The details decided, they left to begin searching. Out into the hallway they went, each to the rooms they'd been assigned. However, from far away, Junpei heard the bell ring. It did so only once. It was 1 a.m. He jogged through the entrance of the large hospital room to find 6 of the others already there. Ace, Santa, Clover, June, Seven, and Lotus. They had gathered in front of door number 8. Or to be accurate, they had gathered in front of the red next to door number 8. Had one of them found the missing piece? What happened, guys? It was June who answered him. Jumpy, look. She was pointing at the red. He pushed through the others until he stood in front of it. Immediately he knew what she had meant. The display on the front of the red read vacant. Junpei sighed. Come on, guys, who was it? I thought we're supposed to yell if we found it. Well, Junpei wondered why she was hesitating. The others looked as confused as June, but kept their mouths shut. What the hell? What's up with you guys? They all knew something he didn't, and Junpei wasn't about to leave things that way. Finally, Lotus frowned and spoke. Well, that's the thing. We don't know. You don't know. When I got back, it was already like this. There was no one else here. That means I was the first one back, but the missing parts were already back in the red. Junpei looked at the bottom of the red again just to make sure. The slot that had been open on the bottom was now covered with metal. Clearly, whatever had been missing had been returned. What about the other 2? They're the same. Junpei quickly examined the other 2 boxes. I know what happened. Satisfied that they were also repaired, but still very confused, he returned to the others. Alright, I just want to be sure here. Nobody has any idea what the hell happened here, right? Ace and June nodded silently. Seven raised his hands as if to say, not me, and Santa just shrugged. Only Clover lowered her head and did nothing. Huh? Wait a minute. That was when he noticed. Where's Snake? Junpei swept his eyes across the room a second time, but Snake was nowhere to be seen. Does that mean that he found them? I've no idea. There's nothing to suggest it, but nothing to suggest he didn't either. I don't suppose we'll know until we can ask him in person. Well, whatever he did or didn't do, he's pretty damn late. What the hell is he up to? Maybe he's lost. Yeah, well, that seems likely. Dude can't see. I don't know how he gets around in the first place. Clover raised her head. No, that's impossible. Suddenly, she was shouting. Yeah, my brother's blind, but he's got really great hearing. He can get around as well as anyone who can see. So he couldn't get lost. That's impossible. Clover had started to shake, and the knuckles of her hands had gone white. She spun around, but before she did, Junpei noticed tears welling up in her eyes. I'm gonna go look for him. The words were barely out of her mouth when she began to run. Hey, hold on, Clover, wait. Junpei cried out to her, but he was too slow. She kept going, and before anyone else could react, she was gone. Damn it. What should we do now? Well, the red is working now. No, we're not leaving two people behind. We should go look for them. Oh man, this ain't good. Oh yes, what an excellent idea. We just wasted a bunch of time looking for some piece of electronic junk. Now let's waste some more by looking for a couple of idiots. Then remain here if you feel you must, but there's no time. We've only 5 hours left. Junpei and the others nodded to one another and took off at a run. So now we're splitting up. Oh. And now I've... Oh, wait. Oh, okay. That's a fun feature that I'm just figuring out now. Hoot. Expediency. I mean, let's go back to the large hospital room. Huh? Why would we go back? Well, I mean, we might have just missed him, you know? Maybe he really was just late. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Okay, let's go. They turned and ran down the hallway to their right. Wait. What happens if I don't say anything? Junpei turned around and walked away from Santa. There was nothing he'd learned from talking to him anyway. Junpei took June and left the large hospital room. I feel like I know that we're not going to find him because I think I know what happened to him. And I honestly think I know who did it. Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke. We can't keep looking for Snake. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving. Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, 7 spoke. We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not gonna find Snake. There's a problem, though. Gotta figure out who's gonna go through which door. Okay, it's time to... She's done the math. I remember this part. Someone's gonna have to stay behind. And someone's going to make that choice for the rest of us. Ace is going to get himself really high, so the rest of us have to go on without him. You're going to have to trust me. I've got a plan. Bye, June. Then we walk into the wooden door, and we find the medical dummies. All right. Okay, you stay there. There's her chest. Oh, right. It's unlocked. No, on top of the table. Iron 1, salt 2, water 3. I remember this now. What do you think this hint for? Maybe it's got something to do with this box. Blue liquid. A red liquid. Junpei, think there are any slugs on this ship? Salt. Iron salt. Water. Can with spray nozzle. CO2. CO2 is 3. Ammonia is 4. Three, 4, 2, 7, 8, 9. 3, 4, 9. See, what you're entering is how many molecules are in, or how many atoms are in each molecule. Oh, well. EDT. Like the molecules were communicating with one another, like the glycerin. Do you? Hold up, I feel like I could remember something. It's right there. Something in his memory is starting to come back. Do you know about Ice 9? Ice 9. Ice 9, Ice 9. Ice, ice, ice. Suddenly, Seven's eyes shot open. That's it! I remember now. That woman, she's on this boat. That woman, Alice. Who's Alice? Come on, the woman who won't melt at room temperature. Uh-huh. It became clear to Seven that Junpei had no idea what he was talking about. And neither did Jury. He ran his hand across his face and took a deep breath. You know how the Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, right? Yeah, that's been weirdly completely discussed. More than 1,500 people died. Worst maritime accident in history. What about it? Did you hear about the boat that was sent to collect the dead bodies? I think that was the RMS Carpathia, right? It was a cruise liner, just like the Titanic. Were all of these people chosen to be abducted for this because of their encyclopedic knowledge of the Titanic disaster? No. That was the ship that picked up the survivors. The ship that collected the dead bodies was the CS Mackay Bennett. The Mackay Bennett showed up on April 17th, 2 days after the accident. It set out from Halifax, a port in Canada, and recovered 306 bodies. The Atlantic that far north was really cold. It would have to be, for there to be icebergs and stuff. Anyway, the bodies they pulled out of the water were frozen solid. This isn't a very nice story. So what happened next? Well, they say the Mackay Bennett recovered something more than just dead bodies. There were various bits of stuff floating around in the water. Things the drowned had carried with them, or stuff dislodged as the ship sank. One of the things they found was a coffin. A coffin? Yeah, a wooden one. The craftsman who'd made it must have been pretty skilled. It wasn't just a wooden coffin. It was all wood. There were no nails or reinforcements, and there were no gaps in the wood anywhere. It was airtight. The crew got pretty curious about what it might be inside it, and opened it up. They had to get a wedge and hammer it open. It was so well made. Inside, they found a woman. Or I guess you should say, they found the dead body of a woman. Her hair was thick and black, and her skin was deep brown and didn't show any signs of age or decomposition. They say that she looked gorgeous, like a goddess. She was obviously dead, but everyone who looked at her said she just looked like she was sleeping. Her skin was so lifelike, she looked like she might wake up any minute. She didn't, though. Like the rest of the bodies they found, she was frozen solid. Eventually, the Mackay Bennett finished the search and returned to Halifax. The 306 bodies were unloaded and taken ashore. However, it was warm enough that they began to melt. They say that the stink was horrible. There was one body that didn't thaw. The girl in the coffin. That's right. Everybody thought for sure that she'd melt and start to rot like the rest of them eventually, but weeks passed and nothing happened. Then a month had passed and another, and it was summer, and she was still frozen solid. After a while, people started to say she was some sort of miracle. Rumors about the girl started to spread, and people came to visit Halifax from all over. Now, I simply have to know, because I haven't looked. I'm googling 999 Titanic coffin real. Did a cursed mummy sink with the Titanic? False. Princess Amen-Ra lived some 1,500 years before Christ. When she died, she was laid in an ornate wooden coffin. Okay, so this part is a myth. After a while, people started to call her All Ice. Alice. Of course, those rumors didn't last long. Why? Well, she up and disappeared. One day, Alice was there. The next day, she wasn't. They say someone snuck into where they were keeping her and stole the body. The body gone, the rumors followed pretty quickly. And after a while, no one remembered her. You might be able to find something about her if you could find a newspaper from back then, but that's about it. Wait, you just said that she was on this boat. This boat? Yeah, I did. Alice has got to be somewhere on this ship. Now, why the hell would you say something like that? 'Cause I know. And just what is it you know? What happened to Alice after she was stolen? Junpei gulped. Alright, tell me. What happened to Alice? Seven nodded slowly and took on the look of a man recalling something long buried. Well, around that time, word was that there was a thriving black market in New York. I mean, I'm sure there still is, but this was special. All millionaires from all over the world. I've heard that Alice went up for auction there. The person who won the auction was Lord Dashiell Gordain. You've heard that name before, right? Sir Gordain. Isn't he the guy who bought the gigantic Titanic's sister ship? Yeah, that's him. Although I guess he hadn't done that yet. What do you mean? Gordain bought Alice in 1912. Then 4 years later, in 1916, he bought the gigantic. And he hid Alice somewhere on the gigantic, but nobody knows where. He died in 1931, and apparently, he died without ever telling anyone where Alice was hidden. However what? Well, he did have one close friend who asked him, "Where's Alice?" And he said, "Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the forest of knowledge beneath the navel of the gigantic." What the hell is that? Some kind of riddle? Your guess is as good as mine. Seven threw his hands up in defeat. So that's it. Whatever you think, I believe it. Whatever you think, I believe it. She's hidden somewhere on the gigantic. In other words, she's hidden somewhere on this ship. Before Junpei could dispute Seven's rather bizarre claim, they heard Clover's voice from the door. She did not sound pleased. Hey! What are you two doing over there? Stop wasting time and get over here! Okay, we're coming. Seven looked at Junpei. Yeah, so anyway, that's the story. Might be useful someday. Don't forget it. With that cryptic remark, he turned and left the room. Junpei was left behind to ponder what he'd just heard. He tried to remember what June had told him earlier. That mummy wasn't just a normal mummy. They say that she was frozen. The story says that from the time of its discovery all the way through to when it got put on the Titanic, and even though it was carried through the desert, her body never melted. Was that Egyptian priestess Alice? Had the water in her body become Ice 9? No, that's nuts. There's no way somebody like that could exist. Junpei shook his head, trying desperately to clear it, and followed Seven to the operating room where Clover was waiting. Alright. What have I got? Still have the key, which I think means there's still a door to open. And there you go. Cool. It's unlocked. Oh, wait. Red liquid. Turn it on. And I think it wound up being far simpler than I expected it to. They keep each other's hearts. Hey, Clover, what's wrong? Come on, let's get out of here. She's coming to terms with the fact that Snake might be dead, and she thinks she's next, but I'm gonna give her the 4-leaf clover. No, she's talking about Lock's socks. Patch it up. Chip Theseus. And we figured out that we both came through the same way. And we opened the door back in the hospital room. There's Ace. We found some keys, but we're still... Okay, and we're asking if there's a reason we came back. I know now. Of course there's a reason. We have keys now and we can open doors. Man, sometimes I can't tell if you're smart or just lucky. Yeah, what kind of idiot would forget why we came back in here? Junpei pulled two things out of his pockets. The Saturn key card. And the Earth key. Santa cocked his head to one side like an inquisitive bird and looked at them. After several long moments during which it became apparent that Santa had no idea what the cards meant. Don't you remember, Santa? On C-Deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? And next to the elevator, there was a card reader with the Saturn symbol on it. And on A-Deck, on the door to the left, There was a keyhole with the Earth symbol on it, I think. So the 2 keys that Jumpy has should let us use the elevator and the door on A deck. Alright, now we understand it. And now we are able to turn on the elevator. I know that she's scared of drowning and not scared of maybe having to touch hands. I draw the dumbest diagram you can possibly imagine to demonstrate what's happening. And we go back up. It's kind of wild that it's not drowned. And then we have to leave Santa behind. 7's mad. And we find out why. Snake is gone. Don't like it. We have our theories. Their guess is that there have to be 2 people with 0 on the ship with them. You know what? So Ace's reasoning last time was stupid. There's something else that's bothering me. That was obvious. 0 was somewhere on the ship. Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled to himself, lost in thought. Where could 0 be hiding? The thing that's bothering me is meta shit. There are only 9 persons. There are only 9 people. That's... Wait, no. Hang on. I think 0 is one of us. Well, that's possible. Huh? Like Clover said, 0 might be one of us. What are you saying, Jumpy? Didn't you hear what Ace said? Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for no reason. No reason? I've got a great reason. And what's that? The bracelets. He held out his left arm. Why are the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? You're all thinking 0's hiding somewhere watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise and a lot easier. But if that's the case, then why is the bomb set off by the detonator in the bracelet? Huh. You got a point. I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to the nonary game. All of the puzzles here run all by themselves. In other words, 0 doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why is that? Why would 0 bother to do something like that? Junpei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. So let's say you and Clover are right. 0's one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us, or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right? Yeah. Junpei nodded. 7, when we were talking earlier, you said any one of us could be Snake's killer, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright then, I've got a question for you, Ace. You said something like 0 must be the one who killed Snake, right? Yes, something like that. I can't think of any other explanation. So what do we get if we combine those? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake is 0 and is one of us. 7 and Ace's theories aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. At least they do if Zero is one of us. No one spoke. Their faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up. What were his motives? His motives? Yes. Isn't that pretty important? Why would Zero want to hide as one of us? Oh, well that's because, Junpei choked. He hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself. He had no idea. I don't know. Lotus sighed. Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Junpei. In other words, you had only circumstantial evidence. I don't really think that's enough to go on, you know? Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else, to look at. Just when he felt he could bear it no more. Oof. They heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase. 3 in the morning. That means we have 3 hours left. Then we need to move, now. 7, Clover, Junpei. I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important. We trust one another, don't you? Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. He swallowed the words he wanted to say and sighed. 7 and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away. We must go. We have very little time left. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. And we find another set of elevators. And we find a number 2 door, and we realize we've found our 8th door. And we all vote on where we want to go. I want to go through. I went to the bottom before. I want to go to the top this time. My choice is door 1. Santa was unconvinced. Hey, wait a minute there. You cheating? Oh, I was on mute. We have seen this before, so I don't need to necessarily voice it, but we've not seen. He put the paper that said door 1 in his left hand and the paper that read door 2 in his right. When the drawing began, he saw to it that the rest was easy. This time, I used my left hand. You got lucky. Clover, Junpei, and myself. 1 + 4 + 5 = 10. 1 + 0 = 1. Our only problem is the 2 remaining teams. June and I want door 6. Lotus and I want door 2. That's not good. We can't open either of those doors with only 2 people. Fine. 7 will go through door 6. Seven, Lotus, June, and Santa. I didn't really want to go through door 3 anyway. Besides, if we've got a younger girl with us, it'll lower the average age. Right, June? Well, June June was at a loss for words. Lotus was not. That pig, you just wait and see. Her eyes were the eyes of a woman prepared to kill. A shiver ran down Junpei's spine. Even after they separated at the staircase, Lotus was still muttering angrily to herself. Circumstances dictated that Junpei and June would have to part ways again, but this time it didn't sting quite so much. After all, he knew he would see her again. Till we find that 9-door, Zero ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we can't open door 9. That's how the nonary game works. Junpei, Ace, and Clover headed toward Adak. They took out the Earth key and opened the door to the left. It opened and they walked through. It was just as Santa and Lotus had said. At the end of the hallway sat a door with a large red 1 upon it, a numbered door. To the left of it, bolted to the wall, was the red. Ace went first and waved his wrist over the scanner panel. Junpei was next. Finally, listlessly, Clover lifted her arm. She leaned toward the scanner panel. The third asterisk clicked to life, shining brightly. Ace took hold of the lever. He took a deep breath and turned to Junpei and Clover. Are you ready? Shall I pull it? Yeah, anytime. Clover said nothing. She nodded, little more than a lethargic twitch of the head. Very well then, let's go. 3, 2, 1. Dunk. The door opened. They stumbled into the room. Frantically, Junpei scanned the room. His eyes stopped on the device that would determine whether they lived or died. There it is! Over there! Next to the door they'd come through was the dead. As one, they ran to it. They put their hands over it as if they were fighting for it. It stopped. Yes, it did. Junpei could feel his heart pounding against the inside of his ribs. Ace and Clover were breathing hard and fast. It was the third time they'd been through the process, but they had yet to grow accustomed to it. Not that Junpei wanted to. He planned to finish the game before he got a chance to let imminent death become commonplace. Junpei looked around again, this time more slowly. Never been here before. There was another door, different from the one they'd entered through. He took hold of the knob and gently pulled it open. So, this is the wheelhouse. He closed the door again and turned to Ace and Clover. He fixed each in turn with a meaningful stare, then spoke. Ace, you investigate the wheelhouse next door. Very well. Clover, you're in charge of this room. Yeah. Say something. Okay, I will. All right then. Let's get started. Faden, but I want to be efficient. I think I can do this. Stack of nautical charts. I think this is a nautical chart. There's this line on it here. I think the line is the route the ship is supposed to take. There are these dots all over the map. Oh, those are probably ports, like for a boat to stop at. It looks like the lines connect the dots. Okay. There's nothing left in the drawer. There's only the one drawer I can open. Guess this is probably for reading maps or something. Yeah, they probably spread the map out here and then decide on the route. A chair. Clover isn't talking much. Well, I guess that's understandable. I mean, she's been through a lot. Really, it's more surprising that she's still together enough to talk at all. Another room on the other side of the window. Oh, this isn't good. So many drawers, but nothing inside of them. A compass. It appears to be broken, however. You see, the glass cover has been smashed to pieces. The helm. Well, steering wheel might be a more appropriate term. Thank you, Ace. A desk. Anything in the drawers? Nope. The hell is this? This indentation has a rather unique shape. Perhaps we're supposed to put something in it. What? Isn't it obvious? Something that's shaped the same. Perhaps the head of a person with a round face and a bun. What the hell? No, wait. What's up here? What is this? Some kind of display? It looks a little like an electronic scoreboard. I imagine it was added recently. Take your word on that, Ace. What do we got here? It's a wooden box. Maybe a case for letters? Hey, Clover, you ever write letters? Nothing. That's a pocket watch. She sure hasn't been saying much. She just keeps looking at the floor. She seems really sad. I would say more than kinda. The voice he hadn't expected startled Junpei from his examination of the pocket watch. Oh, a pocket watch. Might I take a look at it? He spun around to find Ace standing in the doorway. Junpei shrugged and handed him the pocket watch. Hey man, what are you doing over in this room? Oh, I just thought I'd come check up on the two of you. Is there a problem? Well, not a problem, but it was a lie. All Junpei wanted was to get rid of Ace. He'd sent Ace to the wheelhouse at the beginning for a reason. There was something he meant to ask Clover, and he meant to ask her in private. There was something he wanted to ask Clover, and he didn't want anyone else to hear him ask it. He also knew that Clover would likely remain silent if there were anyone else around when he asked. That was why he was so desperate to send Ace back to the wheelhouse. Ace opened his mouth, then took another look at Junpei and shut it again. A small smirk appeared on his face. Oh, I see. Of course. He looked Junpei over, then glanced at Clover. I apologize for the intrusion. Well, best of luck. Ah, you creep. Junpei let out a sigh and brushed a few drops of sweat from his forehead. He turned and found himself looking straight into Clover's eyes. She'd heard what Ace had said. He regarded Junpei with caution. What was that about? She was clearly suspicious, and with good reason. Junpei's eyes widened, and he held up his hands in a gesture of innocence. Oh, no, it's not like that. What's it like then? I just wanted to hear the rest of that story. I didn't get a chance to ask you about it until now. What story? About the experiment. Remember, the one you started to tell me in the operating room? You said something about an experiment that happened here 9 years ago. Clover bit her lip. She stared down at the floor for several long moments, and when she spoke, it was barely audible. I'm sorry, but I don't want to talk about that right now. I'm just not in the mood, okay? You understand, right? I keep thinking about my brother. I can't stop. I mean, who would do something like that? To my brother? I can't forgive them. I'm not gonna let them get away with it. They're going to pay for it. I promise. So, her shoulders were shaking. Drops of blood had sprung up on her lips where she was biting them. She wiped it off and looked up at Junpei, her eyes fierce and angry. Junpei? Who do you think did it? Her voice was cold and scarcely above a whisper. Junpei gulped. Well, if what Seven said was right, And there would have to be at least 2 of them. You need at least 3 people to open the numbered doors, and if you subtract Snake, that means there were at least 2 other people. You're right. So what does that mean? Well, if we just look at the bracelet numbers, we should be able to figure it out. Who could have opened door 3 with Snake? Well, really, who and who, or who and who? You mean it could have been 4 people? Well, technically it's possible. I don't know. That doesn't seem very likely. Why? I'll tell you later. Why don't we just assume it was only 2 other people for now? Okay, got it. Let's do that then. Then who do you think it could be? Junpei crossed his arms in thought. Snake's bracelet number was 2. Which 2 bracelet numbers added to 2 would give a digital root of 3? Shit. 213? No, that's 6. 216? No, that's not. 236? 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 3, that's 2. Oh, so Santa and 7. Would it be Santa and 7? 2 plus 3 plus 7 equals 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Could it be? Were Santa and 7 the killers? What's wrong? Clover looked at Junpei and he looked back at her. There was no point in hiding it. He told her his conclusions. That's what I thought. She looked less surprised than he'd expected. Santa and 7. If it was 2 people, then that's the only combination that works. Hey, wait a minute there. Don't you think it's a little too early to be jumping to conclusions? Well, all I said was those 2 would have been able to open door 3 with your brother. There might be other possibilities. There are other possibilities. There's something we're overlooking. There's something we've forgotten. Well, what other possibilities? He didn't have an answer. He was ready to admit defeat when Clover spoke. Are you saying you think it was 3 or 4 people? I really don't think that's likely. Why? Can I borrow your pen and paper? Clover put her hand out expectantly. Junpei pulled out his pen and pad of paper and handed them to her. I like how Zero orchestrated this whole thing, built all these traps, designed all these perfectly unlockable doors, and gave one dude a notebook. She opened the notebook and wrote down several simple addition problems. Eventually, she had 8, which provided a digital root of 3. 1. A. Snake plus 8 plus Santa plus June. 12. Snake plus Ace plus Clover plus Junpei is 12. Snake plus Clover plus 7 plus Lotus is 21. Snake plus Junpei plus June plus Lotus. Snake plus Ace plus Santa plus 7 plus Lotus. Or Snake plus Ace plus Clover plus June plus Lotus is 21. Or Snake plus Ace plus Junpei plus June plus 7 is 21. Or Snake plus Clover plus Santa plus Junpei plus 7. What's this? These are the combinations for 3 or 4 people. These 8 combinations are the only possible ones. I see. Junpei? Yeah? I can trust you, right? Of course. Why would you need to ask that? Really? Yeah. So then I should get rid of B, D, G, and H, right? Of course. Just cross them out. And you should take off yours too, the ones with 4. So, what does that leave? A and E. Ace, Santa, June. Or Ace, Santa, 7, and Lotus. Wait. It can't be A. Why not? Because June's in that one. There's no way in hell she'd do something like that. Are you sure? I'd bet my life on it. Okay, then. Then I can cross off A too, right? Yeah. Well, what have we got left? E. Meaning it's... Do you know what this means? Everyone besides me, you, and June would be working together. Do you think that's likely? If there were 4 people working together, they wouldn't be very cautious. I don't think they'd try that hard to hide what they were doing if they outnumbered us, right? Well, you do have a point. And besides, if Ace and 7 were working together, they could have easily gotten rid of me when I went to the shower room with them. But they didn't. They didn't even try anything. If they were the killers, why wouldn't they? Her voice was calm, but Junpei had only to look in her in the eye to know it was a forced calm. There were tears forming at the corners of her eyes, and she was blinking furiously to keep them back. Perhaps by attempting an objective analysis of who might have killed her brother, she had been able to distance herself from the harsh reality of his death. The more she struggled to act unconcerned, the more Junpei felt his heart tighten. Okay. Yeah, well, that does make sense. Seems pretty unlikely that it was as many as 3 or 4 people. Yeah. Then that means there's a good chance it was Santa and 7. That's how it looks. But why would they do it? There was a moment of silence. I think I know. What is it? He laid his hand gently on her shoulder. He was close, so close to the answer. When Ace chose the worst possible moment to return. He raised a knowing eyebrow and then spoke. Have I interrupted something? What do you want? There was something I wanted to speak with you about, Junpei. Could you come with me for a moment? He turned on his heel and walked back toward the wheelhouse. Junpei looked over at Clover. He gave her a short nod, hoped that she would be willing to talk to him again later, and followed Ace. What did you want to talk about? Ace looked at Junpei and smiled. Perhaps more of a smirk than a smile. There was something I wanted to check. Yeah, what's that? If you'll excuse me. With no warning, Ace slipped his hand into the pocket of Junpei's vest. Hey, what the hell are you doing? He reached for Ace's arm. But it was already too late. In the older man's hand were the pieces of paper Junpei had balled up and hidden in his pocket. Just as I thought. You switched them, didn't you? When we voted. Ah, well, I can't say that I care. I managed to get through the numbered door I wanted despite your mischief. What? Why did you... Oh, simple curiosity. I hope you won't think ill of me for it. Ace smiled, gave Junpei a friendly pat on the shoulder, and turned on his heel and left. It was a small defeat, but it was a defeat. Junpei had lost the upper hand, and he knew it. He could feel his stomach begin to tense. Also terrible news. Now I have to go back to figuring this shit out. Looks like this is some sort of lock. It's got a weird shaped indentation on it. This shape, maybe, it does look like the pocket watch would fit here. Nothing. I imagine the pocket watch is intended to go in there. However, we may need to do something with the watch first. Mechanical pocket watch with the spring doesn't appear to be working. The hands have stopped at 5 minutes 39 seconds past 10 o'clock. Turning the knob does nothing. Yeah, it's probably broken. It looks as though you could move the hands, however. Well, I need to find a specific time to reference. Shelves are lined with books. Let's see what's in the blue one. Ship's log. Huh. Ship's log, huh? Okay. This is written on the last page. We leave soon for a new journey across the sea. After leaving port, we headed south and west. We turned southwest, steered around the continent, then proceeded northwest. We made port and changed our heading to east for a time and are now heading due north. Soon we will dock in the United Kingdom, homeland of this vessel. I will have to come back to this. I'm not close enough. Oh. World map of the Atlantic Ocean in the center. There are a number of red pins in several locations. What do these red pins mean? The nautical charts I picked up earlier have a map like this one. Maybe one of them matches up to the pins or something. Let's see. What do you know? Looks like this one's a match to the pins. Okay, so we got 7 locations connected by straight lines. Each one has a word next to it. That's probably the speed. Wait, F. Nautical table found in the chart. Shows directions of southwest, southwest, northwest, east, north, and straight. There's a word next to each point on the map. Full, half slow, full, half dead, stop. That's what it says. Southwest, southwest, northwest, east. I need my scratch paper. Scratch paper, baby! Puzzle Boy's best girl. Southwest, southwest, northwest, east, north. Is that right? South and west, southwest. Proceeded northwest. We made port. We changed our heading to east. And now heading due north. Correct. And that's full south, half west, slow southwest, full northwest, half, dead, and then stop. I wonder if that's... I don't have any times. No times referenced. This thing won't budge. Feels like there's something keeping it in place. What would be the point of moving it? The ship is stopped. What would be the use of steering it? Yeah, I know, still. I have a plan, Ace. A broken compass. Doesn't look like it'll be very useful. The left drawer, what's in it? Nothing. The right drawer. Let's have a look. Nothing. A chair. Clover isn't very talkative. Pretty empty desk. My brother's desk was locked like this because he couldn't see. He never put stuff out that he didn't need. Damn, that's... What am I supposed to say to that? Poor kid. Wooden box on the desk. It's a light. I guess she doesn't really feel like talking. She's not really paying attention to anything, is she? Her mind must be somewhere else. None of the rest of the books look useful. Got the nautical chart that matches up to these pins. I don't think I need to spend any more time with this map. And so we're clear. The ship's log Does not seem to mention any times. Neither does this. There's nothing in that one. There's nothing over there. Can't look at any of these. Broken pocket watch. You can move the hands manually and the knob doesn't work. An arrival board like at an airport. There's nothing on it right now. How do you suppose I turn it on? Center drawer, nothing in here anymore. It won't move. Yeah. There's a whole other fucking room. An engine order telegraph. They use this on old ships to adjust the speed of the ship. Like the gear shift in a car. Well, it's a little different. This device doesn't connect directly to the engine. In short, it's a transmitter. The navigation officer uses it to set the speed of the ship and then sends a signal to the engine. There's a handle on the top of it which can be moved back and forth. Hold on. Huh? There's no handle. You're right, there isn't. It looks as though it was deliberately removed. Compass. And what destiny does it point us to? I really hope you don't think that sounded cool. Metal plate bolted over the window. Circular hole cut into the board. Steering wheel. Let's see if it... Whoa! Looks like the steering wheel moves. So it would seem. I noticed something else as well. What's that? Well, when you move this wheel, the compass also moves. What do you mean? The ship. It's moving. Oh. 1 second. I must peel up away. I know how that sounds, but I have a cute little dog and he has to take his prescriptions 4 times a day. Tricked you, didn't I? The wheel and the compass must be connected to one another somehow. Do you think that's important? Well, let's try turning it again. Am I supposed to use it like a combination lock, I wonder? What the? Handle came off. Stooping so low, are you, Zero? Handle that came off the steering wheel. A handle. Well, I know where this can go. So, sure hope this handle fits. Yes, it fits. Excellent. That should allow us to operate the engine order telegraph. Let's give it a shot. Full. Half. Slow. Full. Half. Dead slow north. Stop. Huh? That's weird. I thought I put in the right speed. Did I mess up? No, I don't think so. Look. Something's happened on the back of the wall of the wheelhouse. Yeah, you're right. Let's check it out. Aha! There's something on the wall that looks kind of like an arrival board. There are a whole bunch of words on the left side of the display. What the hell is this? They're names of ports across the world. I imagine it's showing us the ship's route. You know, just like the ones you might see at an airport. Departing X carrier X flight X at X o'clock. Like that. Oh, I get it. It does look like those are the names of all the ports along the ship's route. It looks like only one of those has a time on it, though. The time on the last line, right? 10 seconds past 3 o'clock. Perhaps that's the arrival time. Well. Broken pocket watch. You can only move the hands manually, the knob doesn't work. Can I do that, please? Let's use the pocket watch on this. On the left side, it's got the names, ports the ship will stop at along its route. The last line says 10 seconds past 3. That must be the estimated time of arrival. What's he doing? Hey, he just took my pocket watch. What the hell are you doing? Just trust me. Should be fine now. Thanks for giving me the pocket watch back, but you don't need to look so smug. Let's see what he... Oh, he moved the hands. 10 seconds past 3 o'clock. So you changed it to match the final arrival time. Face nodded slowly. You know what to do next, right? Hang on. So this arrivals board showed the arrival time of ships in presumably the 1910s that were scheduled to the second? Well, you know what to do next, right? Give it a shot. Thanks, Dad. Looks like this is some sort of lock. Got a weird shaped indentation on it. Yes. It says open now. Good work. It seems you were successful. Well done, Junpei. Hey, Clover. What? Look, we unlocked the door. Now we can get out of this room. Oh. Well, let's go then. Clover? Whew, boy. You found it. The space they found themselves in outside of the wheelhouse was far too narrow to be called a hallway. On their left was a wooden door. Junpei pushed it open and stepped into the room beyond. It was full of all manner of turn-of-the-century electronic equipment. Most of them were things they'd never seen before. They had no idea what they might have been for, let alone how to operate them. I just gotta get out of this place. Most of them were things they'd never seen before. They had no idea what they might have been for, let alone how to operate them. One smaller machine had a metal bar that had ended in a circular handle. Ace seemed to recognize it. Ah, yes, a telegraph key. These were used to transmit Morse code a long time ago. He turned and slowly took in the room. This must be the communication office. Across the room from the door they'd entered through was another door. A metal plaque was nailed to it. It read, Captain's Quarters. Captain's Quarters. That's what it says. Then do you think... I am Zero, the captain of this ship. Ace swallowed. Junpei could feel his hands begin to sweat. Only Clover seemed unaffected. Well, we won't know if we don't open it. She walked up to the door and put her hand on the knob. It opened easily, and without so much as a pause, she walked in. Junpei and Ace followed. The first thing they saw was a man on the floor covered in blood. Junpei felt his body seize up, his mouth went dry, and he felt very, very cold. The blood in his veins slowed to a crawl, and his heart tightened like a fist. This was the third time he'd seen the horror of death laid out before him. He didn't think it was something he could stand to see much more of. Still, he had begun to accept that whatever it was that he saw, whatever happened to him, was beyond his control, and whatever force controlled him was driven by a determination he could not hope to match. A sense of helplessness, desperation, washed over him. It left behind a feeling of utter emptiness that wormed its way through his body, like acid. Then he realized. They had yet to check the man's pulse. Perhaps he was still alive. Fueled by that spark of hope, Junpei ran to the man's body, and his heart fell. His fingers on the man's neck felt no pulse. His pupils had dilated and he wasn't breathing. Junpei lifted the man's already stiff body. There was a deep red wound on his chest. Junpei did not have to wonder long at what could have made such a wound. For lying next to the corpse was an axe. The entire blade of it was drenched in bright red blood. From the shape of the man's wound, there could be no doubt that it had been made by the axe. Junpei looked at the body again. A lake of blood stretched out around it. It was wearing the clothes of a ship's captain, although they were stained with blood. A captain. Did that mean that this man was Zero? On his left hand was a bracelet. The number on the bracelet was 0. It was only then that Junpei noticed the stench of blood that filled the room. He couldn't help but laugh. There was nothing else for him to say. It was too simple, too obvious, too straightforward. If there hadn't been a dead man on the floor, Junpei might have thought it was a joke. Is that a camera? camcorder. It looks like it's pointed at the door. Well, the power's on. Why would someone want to videotape a door? So this is the exit, huh? Don't even really have to try this door to know that it's locked. I knew it. There's a plaque on the door, but it doesn't say anything. Control panel for the electronic lock. Guess I've got to put in a passcode. I don't think it's just about numbers. There's a hole in the bottom of it, right? I think you need to put a key in it first. A little rectangular hole. I think it's a keyhole of some sort. With the right key, I should be able to unlock it. Oof. There's blood on the chair. Do you think this was the dead guys? Yeah, probably. It's a lamp, but it doesn't turn on. I don't think there's anything special about it. Music box? A small table. A bed. There's nothing in it. A chair. I think this probably used to be a door. Nobody's going through it as long as this metal plate's here, though. Well, even without the metal plate, the desk's in the way. What's the deal with this? Is it some kind of code? There are 4 rows of numbers and letters. They all start with a 0 and end with 8, F, N, or V, respectively. Maybe this has something to do with number bases. What does it say? Numerical system chart. 10 in base 10 is written as A in hexadecimal. This chart showed the rules for each numeral system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, makes my head hurt a little bit. That's all there is there. Then there's these things. This one shows the central staircase on C deck. Oh boy. Someone was watching us. Do you know how to work this thing? Why don't we just press one of these? Like this one. Oh, well, I guess it does change the... What the hell is this? Junpei snorted with grim humor for the second time since he'd come into the room. The 4 screens along the bottom had a single letter each, spelling out Z-E-R-O. Junpei felt as though he was being mocked. The real villain was somewhere laughing at him. What do you think? He turned to Clover, who was standing next to him. Her voice was almost too low to hear. Nothing. It seemed that she cared about little. Of course, Junpei could hardly blame her. Given the strain she was surely under, Junpei was somewhat surprised she had responded at all. Still, he had to ask. He gestured toward the corpse. What about him? Do you think that's really Zero? Clover shook her head weakly. There's no way that's him. Didn't I tell you already? Zero is one of us. Yeah, right. Well, even if he wasn't one of us, there's no way that man could be Zero. Huh? Don't you get it? The letters that spell Zero on the TV screen. The captain's clothes he's got on. And of course, the bracelet with a 0 on it. It's too obvious. Look, this is Zero right here. This dead body is Zero. Doesn't that seem kind of funny to you? You're right. Only an idiot wouldn't see through something like that. No, that's not the point. I'm not trying to make fun of them for thinking a trick like this would work. I'm sure they didn't think it would work, which makes me wonder, why did they do it? I think this is a challenge. A challenge from the person who's really behind all of this. He's making fun of us. Huh? Don't you get it? If whoever killed this guy really wanted us to think this corpse was zero, they'd never have put a bracelet on him. Walking about with a zero bracelet would be like hanging a sign around your neck that said, I did it. Anyone with a brain would be able to see that this guy is supposed to look like everything zero is supposed to be. Just like we did. The killer must have known we wouldn't think he was zero and put the bracelet on him anyway. Do you know why? Why? Like I said, he's mocking us. Too bad, suckers, this isn't zero. It's the same bad joke a lot of criminals like to play. They'll just sit back and watch people run in circles. Look, here I am. What's wrong, guys? Come on, catch me if you can. That's really twisted. But it almost seems kind of childish. Yeah, you're right. It's really childish. Like it's just a game to whoever this person is. That's what seems funny to me. Junpei bent down next to the corpse. Alright, let's get back to the point. Who killed this man? I don't know. And what's this guy's deal? Who is he? How would I know that? If I knew anything, I would have told you. You have no idea who he is. Why would I? Junpei sat back on his haunches and thought. We should check and see if he's got anything on him that might tell us who he is. Give me a hand here, Clover. What? We've got to flip him over. How else are we going to search his pockets? Clover didn't move. Junpei had no choice but to move the body on his own. He grabbed hold of an area not completely covered in blood and shoved. It took a moment, but eventually Junpei felt the man's bulk begin to shift. But just as it did, something fell from the man's left wrist. The bracelet with 0 on the face. Lastly, let us discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only 2 ways to do so. 1, you escape from this ship. 2, your heart rate reaches 0. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of this ship or detects that its wearer's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it will shut down automatically. Junpei stared at the bracelet. This man, he's dead, isn't he? Huh? No, it's just, I guess I didn't really think about it until right now. If his bracelet's off, that means he's dead. Well, it's pretty obvious that he's dead. You don't really need to look at his bracelet to figure out that he's dead. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's pretty obvious. He looks a lot better than the other bodies we've seen, though, you know? I mean, if there wasn't all this blood, he'd almost look like he was still alive. I mean, I know it's kind of a messed up thing to say, but he kind of has it better, you know? Dying from a bomb going off inside you, I mean, that's just... Some of Snake's bones went right through his skin. I think the explosion must have thrown him against the wall or something. Junpei, would you chill? No, read the room. There was a broken bone just sticking out of his left arm. Suddenly, Junpei realized what he was saying. How could he have been so cruel? He clapped his hands over his mouth. But it was already too late. He turned to look at Clover. She was glaring at him furiously. What did you just say? Her words sounded cold. He knew an apology could hardly atone for what he'd done, but he tried anyway. Oh man, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I really don't know what I was thinking. I mean, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What did you say about his arm? Arm? Yes, his left arm. You said it, didn't you? Well, yeah, I did, but, I mean, didn't you see it too? Of course not. I could barely look at him. Clover took a quick, deep breath. Are you sure it was his left arm? Junpei thought back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And he had a broken bone, right? What the hell are you getting at here? Just shut up and answer me. She shoved her face closer to his. He could see the fire in her eyes. Junpei winced and swallowed. Yeah, he did. It was pretty bad, too. The bone was sticking out of the arm. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than Clover's expression changed. Suddenly she was crying. Junpei wasn't sure what to do. Thank you. It was close to the last thing he had expected to hear. Junpei had no idea what had just happened. He didn't think he'd done anything worthy of thanks, and he couldn't understand why she would have chosen that moment to begin crying. So he simply stood there, confused. Thank you, Junpei. She thanked him again, and then something even stranger happened. Clover threw herself into Junpei's surprised arms. Hey, what's going on with you? I'm sorry, it's just, I'm so happy. Why? The body in the shower room. It isn't his. It isn't my brother. Huh? It's not Snake. Why on earth would you think that? Because his left arm is... She stopped herself. I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be talking about this. Junpei decided it would be prudent not to press her for any more information. If she did not wish to tell him, she certainly had a reason for doing so. Perhaps more importantly, however, if Clover was so certain, then she was likely right. That meant that the body in the shower room wasn't Snake. It wasn't much, but that knowledge lifted some of the weight from Junpei's heart. He's still alive. I'm so happy. Tears shone in her eyes. Those tears melted Junpei's heart. As she cried, she had pushed herself up against his chest like a child. Junpei put his arms around her and held her tight. Junpei, you were right. Huh? No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck. Clover reached into her pocket and pulled something out. It was a laminated bookmark with a 4-leaf clover. I only made it here because you gave me this. I was suspicious of everybody, and I was angry and miserable, but because I had this 4-leaf clover, because of what you said to me. Junpei hadn't thought his words would have had such an effect on her. Her words were making him feel a little awkward. Thank you so much, Junpei. She looked up at him. He scratched his nose and pretended to notice something interesting somewhere else in the room. If you really want to thank somebody, you should be thanking Santa. Santa? Why? Well, he was the one who gave me that thing. And the words for each leaf, I got that from him too. Then suddenly, Clover broke away from Junpei. Huh? He looked confused. He hadn't thought she'd react that poorly. Clover began to pace across the room. 6 steps to the left, 6 steps to the right, another 6 to the left, and then she stopped. Did Santa really tell you those things? Her eyes were serious, but not angry. Yeah, he did. Did I say something wrong? Oh, no, not at all. In fact, this could be really good news. I think. You think? Santa knew about the words and the clover. The only people who should know about that are the other subjects. Subjects? The other people who were in the experiment 9 years ago, with my brother and me. But he's blind, and I was part of the Nevada test group, so neither of us would be able to recognize the faces of the people who were on this boat. Whoa, time out. Junpei held up his hands. He took a deep breath and let it out. Let's just calm down for a second, okay? Start from the top. Don't start with the end and then jump to the middle. You gotta start at 1, then move to 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. If you don't tell me the stuff in the right order, I'm never gonna be able to figure it out. Clover nodded. All right, let's start with this experiment. What happened on this boat? No. What happened on this boat 9 years ago? Do you know about morphogenetic fields? Y'all, I should have taken a break an hour ago. I'm going hard. Oh, but this is what this game does to me. Junpei did know about morphogenetic fields, and the realization sent chills down his spine. Alright, how about this? Theory of the telepathic mechanism. Junpei recounted what Lotus had told him earlier. Clover nodded. Telepathy, huh? Well, that's not really it, but I suppose it's similar. So they were testing telepathy in this ship. Yeah, I guess so. So what exactly did they have you guys do? The same thing that we're doing now. Exactly the same thing. What? The nonary game. 9 people were put on this boat, and 9 others were put in the building in Nevada. And the game started. Junpei grabbed the sides of his head. Look, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. What do the nonary game and some telepathy experiment have to do with each other? Clover bit her lip. She blinked back sudden tears. What had happened to her in Nevada? The ability to access a morphogenetic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. You know how sometimes when you're up against a really tough problem, and then the answer just kind of pops into your head? That's an epiphany. And what you learn from the epiphany can be transmitted with telepathy. When you add danger to that equation, then it gets easier to transmit that information over telepathy. So you're saying the nonary game was supposed to introduce that element of danger. Yeah, but it couldn't be just any old danger. It had to be life and death. And someone did actually die. A girl. Junpei felt the sudden grip of despair in his heart. Something deep and distant and powerful squeezed, and for a moment he felt very, very empty and alone. She was on the boat with my brother. I was in Nevada, so I never met her, but I did hear her name. Her name was, The sound of the door opening was like a gunshot. Junpei spun around. Oh, my apologies. I seem to have disturbed you. Ace, you two must have strong stomachs. I can't imagine how you could stay in this room for so long. Ace glanced down at the floor, at the corpse covered in blood. At any rate, Junpei, would you be so kind as to come and help me with something? I'm having a little trouble, and I could really use your assistance. Come on, it'll only take a moment. With that, he turned and walked back toward the communications office. Clover waited until he was out of sight, then spoke in a small, quiet voice. I don't want Ace to hear us. We can talk about this later. Huh? Hey, wait! Clover ignored him. From outside, Junpei could hear Ace calling. Junpei, what are you doing in there? Hurry up! Grumbling to himself, Junpei stomped off toward the communications office. I have to take a break from learning about shit to play this stupid game that I love. Okay, so what I have is... Okay, just the one item so far. Cable that comes out of this thing is connected to the desk. What does that mean? Is this drawer open? It looks as though that drawer is the only thing that's locked. I don't see a keyhole, though. An electronic lock, perhaps. Take a look at the left side of the drawer. Yeah, there's some cables over there. That must mean... it's a really long cable. The tip is hooked into one of the desk drawers. Okay. Ah. These rarely open. What's this? It's blank. There's nothing written on it. Okay. An early telecommunications device. Most likely used to transmit a radio signal of some sort. I experimented with it earlier, but to no avail. I imagine it's broken. Headphones? I can't hear anything. Guess whatever they were connected to doesn't work. Ace, look. It's a monkey with glasses. How on earth did you arrive at that conclusion? Normal light? Well, it won't turn on, so maybe not that normal. Nope, not that. This. It's a telegraph key. A machine for transmitting Morse code. I tried sending an SOS earlier, but I doubt that did anything. Zero would never make it that easy. So you think it's broken? No, it works. I'm just not sure if I actually transmit anything outside this chip. Old telegraph machine. Nothing suspicious here. What's this? What are you? Small screwdrivers. Always with the screwdrivers. Well, can I open up the music box and see what happens? Screwdriver ought to make short work of this music box. Not 100% why I did that. Ink. I mean, I have an idea. I want to keep looking around this room. Alright, let's try my idea. Let's ink up the music box. Guess I'll put the ink on the cylinder. Then roll it out on the paper. Now I just gotta roll the cylinder across a piece of paper. And if I'm right, the ink should... Morse code chart. Scoop-buddy doop. Now, take that Morse code chart and going off our ongoing theory. Now, come on. There we go. Going off our ongoing theory that these things aren't like a... It's like a safe combination. Give this a shot. Ah, DS business. Damn it. Damn it. My hand slipped. It literally did. The dot, which is read as DIT, is the result of a light tap. The dash, which is read as DA, is what you will get if you hold the button down. I know how to do it, you just have to actually do it. Don't let me down, cool new stylus. See, I distracted myself by wondering if it actually spelled out words. Excellent work, Junpei. Good job. You seem to have figured it out. You've unlocked the drawer. Thanks, Dad. A red file lay in the drawer. Junpei reached down and picked it up. The cover read, All ice. All ice. Alice. Did that mean... Junpei couldn't hold back. He had to know what was in that file. Each page was covered with strange characters. They looked like tiny drawings of birds, snakes, insects, horned animals, wings, and even kneeling humans. There were many pages in the file, and each was full of these strange symbols. What the hell is this? He didn't realize he'd spoken out loud until Ace looked over at him. They're hieroglyphs, a form of writing used in ancient Egypt. A brief aside. Everyone on this ship has encyclopedic knowledge of the specific dates on which the Titanic sank. Junpei himself was able to name check the ship that arrived to pick up the survivors. But you've never seen hieroglyphics, Junpei? They're hieroglyphs, a form of writing used in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt? That's right. Can you read them? Of course. I can't. What would make you think I could? What the hell? Junpei flipped through a few more pages. It wasn't just one or two pages that were covered in the strange symbols. Every single page was covered in them. Trying to read them was pointless. Junpei wasn't going to waste any more time with them. He made to close the file, and something fell out. He bent down and picked it up. A key card. There was a symbol on it that reminded Junpei of the symbols for Saturn and Mercury key cards. This one, however, had a dot in the center of the male symbol. Uranus. No, I can be classy about this. Uranus. That's the Uranus symbol. Junpei looked over to see Ace examining the card. In addition to the Uranus symbol, there were 3 words engraved on the card as well. On the lower right, it said Bottom Deck Library. This must be a key to the library on the bottom deck. So it would seem. Bottom deck, the library. Junpei remembered something he'd heard from Seven when they'd been in the chemical closet. Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the Forge of Knowledge. Forest of Knowledge, beneath the navel of the Gigantic. Did beneath the navel mean the bottom deck? Did Forest of Knowledge mean the library? If it did, then was Alice in a room somewhere beyond the library? What's wrong? Junpei blinked. Only then did he notice Ace looking at him, curiosity and concern written across his face in equal parts. There was no reason for Junpei to hide his thoughts. He began to explain his theory to Ace. Then he stopped. It wouldn't make any sense if Ace didn't know who Alice was supposed to be, so he told Ace everything June had told him. About the Egyptian priestess, about Ice 9, and finally, about the woman who wouldn't melt who had been recovered from the Titanic disaster. He told him about how she'd been called All Ice, which had eventually turned to Alice, and how she had been purchased by an English millionaire who called himself Lord Gordain. And how Gordain had hid Alice somewhere on the ship. And you think that he hid her in a small room beyond the library on the bottom deck? Yeah. Well, I guess so. I see. Ace stared off into the distance, his hand slowly and absent-mindedly stroking his beard. After a few moments, his hand stopped. He turned slowly to look at Junpei, and his brows drew together. Junpei, have you ever heard of the term CAS? CAS. It stands for Cells Alive System. It is an advanced technology for freezing and preserving organic matter. Put simply, it is a technique that allows one to freeze things without the formation of ice crystals. Normally, if you freeze something fresh, water within its cells expands as it crystallizes, damaging the cell membrane. CAS, however, works differently. The object to be frozen is supercooled using magnetic fields, and then frozen instantly and uniformly, giving ice crystals no time to form. It was originally developed for the preservation of food, as an alternative to the normal freezing process. Now, however, there are rumors that it can be used for other things. What do you mean, other things? Well, there are obvious medical uses, but perhaps also space travel. Space travel? You're serious? Surely you've heard of suspended animation, cryogenic freezing. It's a fairly common idea in science fiction books and films, People are sometimes frozen for especially lengthy journeys through space. That was when Junpei understood what Ace was suggesting. Whoa, wait a minute there. Ace looked at him and raised an eyebrow. Are you saying that Alice was frozen using this Cass thing? Well, I'm sure the possibility is quite low, but it is a possibility. If this special ice you call Ice 9 does indeed exist, and if Cass were used to freeze her into that sort of ice instantaneously, you think she could be alive? Well, I can't say for sure, of course. I'm only talking about possibilities. The melting point for Ice 9 is 96 degrees, right? If she were put somewhere where she could reach that temperature. That's nuts. Are you really saying she could have defrosted and started walking about? You're quite right, it does sound unbelievable. But if she had, then we would have an explanation for the man we found dead on the floor. You mean the guy dressed like a captain? Yes. He was dead when we found him. Clearly, he was murdered. But if he was murdered, then by who? By whom, Ace? It couldn't have been one of us. That would be impossible. In order to enter the captain's quarters, one must first open door 1. That door, that requires the Earth key, prevented us from accessing door 1. Who was it that opened that door? Santa and Lotus. Right. Clearly the two of them could not have opened door 1, or any other door for that matter. Who else then could have done so? I need to check something, and this has been bugging me this whole time. If there were all 9 of us, we could have opened the door 9. After the 9th man died, we could still open door 9. If Snake had actually died, which I don't think he did, we could not have opened door 9. Okay, good to know. Junpei thought for a second. No, nobody. After Santa and Lotus had used the Earth Key, they turned back and met up with Junpei and June, who had just returned from EDAC. 4 of them proceeded to return to the large hospital room to reunite with Ace, 7, and Clover. When Junpei and his team had gone into the shower room, Ace, 7, and Clover had been left in the large hospital room, but they would have been unable to open door 1. Perhaps when Junpei and June had taken the elevator to door 2 then? No, that would have been impossible. They had been gone only 5 minutes. No human being could have run to the captain's quarters, killed the man in there, and run back in 5 minutes. It would be impossible for any of us to be the murderer. That being the case, who could have killed him? Wouldn't it make sense if his killer was someone who had been in the ship for some time? A person like that would know the ship well. They would know the locations of all of the hidden passages and secret doors. The numbered doors would mean nothing to someone like that. It would be a simple thing for them to enter the captain's quarters. It would also be a rude thing to introduce in a bottle episode, tightly run ship of a room escape game like this. And you're saying the killer was Alice, and in parentheses, Alice gets to break all the rules. It was Junpei's turn to raise an eyebrow. Ace drew his thumb across his lips thoughtfully. Like the guy from the Nouvelle Vague film Breathless. Well, this is all only one possible theory. All ice. Alice. Was Alice indeed somewhere on the ship with them? Junpei had only one clue. Junpei had only one clue. The key card in his hand. It would, he hoped, grant him access to the forest of knowledge. But beyond that, what waited for him beyond the forest of knowledge? Whatever might be there, however, would have to wait. At the moment, there was nothing Junpei could do. He gripped the keycard tighter and shoved it deep into his pocket. New material has been added to the file screen. New material like all that shit we just talked about? Yup, that's what's in the file. And what's this? There's a key in the drawer. I guess it was hidden under the red file. Aha! I know where you're supposed to go, and I even have an idea of what I'm supposed to put. You search the wheelhouse. The deal is, Ace, I couldn't remember which door it was, because you spent so long talking to me about in whatever. I need to check something. I need to check two somethings. First, control panel for the electronic lock. Looks like it's got a keyhole on the bottom right. Maybe the key I got earlier. Okay, that's what I wanted to check. Junpei, look. There's a minus sign on the screen. There are 8 of them. That probably means we've got to put in 8 digits. Do you think you can figure it out? Yes. Yes, I do. $10, $11, $12, $13, $14. $15, $16, $17, $18, $19, $20, $21, $22, $23, $24, $25, $26, $27, $28, $29, $30, $31, $32, $33, $34, $35. If we use this as our key, I am pretty sure okay. And so on. We are looking at 35. Oh, 8 digits, huh? Once I put in the 8-digit number, I just press E to enter it. And if I mess up, I guess I just press C. Alright, let's give it a shot. Z is 35. E is 14. R, 27. And O is 24. It worked. Good job, Junpei. Excellent. You seem to have unlocked it. Good work, Junpei. All right, let's go. Thanks, Dad. You found it. They stepped out of the captain's quarters and into another hallway. The hallway stretched out in front of Junpei for a bit before turning left, like a great backward L. Junpei rounded the corner and took off down the straightaway. He ran, and ran, and ran. At the end of the hallway was a door. He made straight for it. He was nearly halfway to it when he noticed a piece of paper in the middle of the floor. What was a piece of paper doing in the middle of the hallway? Junpei skidded to a halt. He dropped down to his hands and knees and quickly tore the paper off the floor. Now that he had a chance to examine it more closely, it was clear that it was a map, More specifically, a map of the ship's interior for the A deck. What's wrong? Ace, slightly slower by virtue of his advanced age, had finally caught up to Junpei. Junpei said nothing, simply showed Ace what he had found. He looked at it long enough to determine what it was, and nodded. I see. With that, he began running again, past Junpei. Junpei shoved the map into his pocket and got up to follow Ace. But something stopped him. Hey, where's Clover? He turned around. Clover was nowhere to be seen. Damn it, what the hell is she up to now? Junpei muttered angrily under his breath and took off back the way he'd come. As he stomped around the corner, he saw her. She was standing in front of the door to the captain's quarters, her hand on the doorknob. As Junpei watched, she closed it, gently and quietly. What the hell are you doing? Nothing. What do you mean, nothing? Clover had unconsciously put her hands over the pockets of her jacket, as if trying to hide something. What the hell is that? What? You've got something in your pocket. What is it? Oh, this. This is a note. A note. Yeah. I found it in the pocket of the guy with the captain's clothes. It said something about darkness of the sinister hand or something. What the hell? Let me see it. But Junpei wasn't going to get to see it. From the other end of the hall, he heard Ace's voice. Hey, Junpei! Clover! What are you two doing? Hurry up! Clover shrugged. I'll show it to you later, all right? Come on, we gotta hurry. Before Junpei could protest, she was gone. Around the corner and off down the long stem of the L. A note? A note? Junpei was curious, but there was something else that bothered him. Her pocket had been bulging, far more than it would from just a note. Junpei did his best to convince himself that it would make sense later, and ran off after Clover. Junpei pushed through the door and found himself in a large room with a large set of stairs. It was just what he'd expected to see after reading the map. His I see after reading the map himself meant that Ace had probably realized the same thing. Junpei looked around, but Ace was nowhere to be seen. He put his hand on the handrail and leaned over to look down. There he was. And not just Ace, Santa, June, Seven, and Lotus as well. Junpei and Clover glanced at each other and hurried down the stairs. They reached B deck at the same time. Jumpy! Clover! June's face was excited. Something had happened, that much Junpei could tell by simply looking at her. What's up? Given their situation, he was not inclined to be excited about sudden development. June, however, couldn't contain herself. We found it! Found what? We found it! What did you find? The last door. We found door 9. What? Come on, just follow us. We'll explain on the way. Okay, let's go. I already did this part. Without Snake, we can't get out. Seven turned and jogged off down the stairs. The rest followed. We finally made it. The relief and excitement in her voice echoed what each one of them felt. Yeah, it's finally time. Junpei wasn't quite ready to believe they'd really done it. At least not just yet. Still, if everyone said it was door 9, then it probably was. He could feel his heart racing. A mixture of anticipation and fear ran through his veins, and he could feel his legs shaking. He was doing his best to maintain a sense of healthy skepticism, but he couldn't deny that the prospect of escape was an exciting one. But there was one thing he couldn't get off his mind. The numbered door could only accommodate between 3 and 5 people. There were 7 of them on their way to door 9. That meant that even in the best case scenario, there would be 2 of them who would have to stay behind. 2 people. He didn't have any solutions to that problem yet, but he was desperately hoping one would present itself. Junpei looked over at the clock. Hands indicated that it was 4:30. They had 90 minutes before their time was up. Hey, Junpei, June, the hell are you two doing? Hurry it up. Santa's voice jolted Junpei out of his reverie. Let's go, Jumpy. June took off down the stairs, jogging as quickly as she could. Junpei followed. As a group, they piled onto the elevator and rode impatiently down to E-Deck. It looked familiar. There was a metal grate between the 2 elevators. 7 grabbed hold of it and began to talk. I know I told you I'd explain it earlier, but honestly, there ain't much to explain. After we split off from you guys, the 4 of us got onto the elevator on the left, and that took us to the other side of the grate. After that, they'd headed down another hallway. It took them toward the bow of the ship, and eventually to the number 6 that Junpei and June had found earlier. With 4, they'd been able to open the door and keep going. As usual, they'd faced a locked door, but had been forced to complete 2 different areas before they could unlock it. Once they were through that door, there was another hallway that went in the other direction, towards the stern. So on your way, you found the elevator. That's right. So in other words, you kind of did a lap, huh? You came from that side to this side. Yeah. With that settled, Junpei looked around. So where's the number 9 door? Over here. Follow me. 7 began walking down the hallway that led toward the stern. Junpei and the others broke into a jog to keep up with him. They had been walking for a while, June in silent step with Junpei when she spoke. You know, it's because of Santa that we're all here right now. Huh? That all 7 of us are going to door 9. You don't get it. Santa, 7, and Lotus. What's their digital route? 3 plus 7 plus 8 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. It's 9. That's right. That's right. They could have just left me behind and kept going if they wanted to. But they didn't. Yes, because Santa wouldn't let them. He said we can't leave June behind. That's why we went looking for you guys. And then you got on the elevator and went back to the central staircase. That's right. Well, I wouldn't have called that one. That Santa would be the one to stick up for you. Junpei felt his eyebrows knit as he considered that. Oh, don't get me wrong. Perhaps June had sensed Junpei's concern. I don't mean that 7 and Lotus said they wanted to leave me behind. We were just talking about it and Santa objected to it first. Junpei was about to respond when 7 suddenly stopped. In front of them stood a door. So is this... Junpei couldn't see 7's face, but he could see him nod. There's no other place for us to go. Nope. Just look around. The end of the hallway was a thick iron wall. To the left and right, other hallways led to the port and starboard sides of the ship, but they were both closed off by thick metal grates. It looked as though 7 was right. The door in front of them was their only choice. All right, let's get moving. He pulled open the door and walked in. Junpei took a deep breath and followed. It appeared they'd been telling the truth. The first thing Junpei saw as he entered the room was the number 9. Like all the others, it was a rough thing made of red paint. The door it decorated sat on the back wall of a rectangular room. Junpei ran up to it. It was a large double door with powerful styling. Something about it was almost majestic, and it made the red paint look especially garish. Junpei grabbed the handle and shook. It didn't budge, but then he hadn't really expected it to. The red was bolted to the wall next to the door. its display read, "Vacant." Finally, they'd arrived. Junpei felt a flood of emotion wash over him. He felt a chill down his back, and his chest tightened even as his blood began to boil. He was about to speak when... "Junpei, look behind you." He turned around. Junpei could scarcely believe what he saw. A door and a 9. There was another one. Hey, what the hell? What the hell is going on here? His words came slowly and his brain struggled to understand what he'd seen. On shaky legs, he made his way to the second 9. It was a small door, set parallel to the door they'd come through, but in the other corner of the room. 9. There was no mistaking the number, and if any more proof was needed, a red was bolted to the wall near the door. He grabbed the handle and shook the door, not because he expected it to open, but because he had to make sure it was real. Why the hell are there 2 doors? It was Ace who spoke first. "Do you think perhaps one is the right door and the other is the wrong one?" Lotus was skeptical. "I don't know about that. That seems unlikely." "What makes you say so?" "Well, think about all the rooms we've been through so far. They're full of puzzles, but there are always hints about how to solve them. I'm pretty sure there aren't any rooms where we just had to go with our best guess and leave it to instinct to solve the puzzle. Do you really think that at the very end of the game, Zero's going to suddenly throw in something that depends entirely on luck?" "Then you're saying there's some sort of hint in this room?" "No, I don't think there's a hint anywhere in here. I searched it very well when I was in here before. I didn't find anything that might have been a hint, though." Well then, that means... Yeah, both of these are the right door. I mean, if you think about it. Zero never actually said there was only one door with a 9 on it. The exit is hidden, but it is there. Seek the exit, seek the door that carries a 9. Junpei began to mutter to himself. So if there are 2 number 9 doors, if we split it up right, that's not gonna work. Junpei blinked and looked up at Clover. She held out her hand. "You've got a notebook and a pen, right? Can I borrow them?" Slightly confused, he pulled them out and handed them to her. "You know what she's doing, bud. She's done it before." "Look at this." Clover opened the notebook to a blank page and set it down on the desk. One moment. Everyone else gathered around her and watched as she wrote down a series of numbers. Oh boy. You get it? The numbers on the top are all the combinations with digital roots of 9. The numbers on the bottom are the people who don't fit. There's only 8 possibilities if we split up into 2 groups of 3 or 4 people. So, if 3 people go through the door, then 4 are left behind. If 4 go through, then 3 are left behind, right? Clover nodded, almost as if she were pleased with herself for solving a difficult math problem, which she should be, because she had. The room went very quiet. Silence lay across everyone like a thick, heavy blanket. No one spoke. It sounded like this. Just quiet. Just no one talking. Their faces were blank. Desperate for something else to look at, Junpei turned his eyes to the room around him. As he did, he began to wonder. What was it? The walls were covered with candles. The wavering flame made the shadows of Junpei and his companions look as though they were dancing. 2 rows of wooden pews filled most of the room. Between them was a strip of rich red carpet. carpet ran straight through the room, ending at the door that pointed to the stern of the boat. At the other end of the carpet, an altar. It was a recessed space set into the wall between the two other doors. Sitting on a raised section of the altar was a coffin. A coffin. No, it couldn't possibly be. But if it wasn't, then whose body occupied it? That was as far as Junpei wanted to pursue that line of thought. He decided not to think about the coffin for the time being. At that moment, Seven spoke. There was an edge of humor to his voice, but it was forced. Okay, I give up. I give up. I figured if we sat around here long enough, someone would volunteer, but I guess nobody's got the guts to do it. Junpei didn't understand that he wasn't the only one. What? You guys didn't figure it out yet? Fine. Let me enlighten you. Clover was mostly right with her little explanation earlier, but she missed something. She wasn't really wrong, she just... screw it. Let me just write it out. Seven snatched up the notebook and began to write in it. Everyone else clustered around him, desperate for a look. If you're trying to leave with a group of 3 and a group of 4 and get everybody out, Clover's right. But there's another way. Only one combination, though. You split us up into groups of 3, 3, and 1. You can make this combination. Wait, this means... Don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to copy Ace or anything like that. Even if he hadn't been the hero back in the big hospital room, I'd still be saying the same thing. The same thing? Are you saying... Yeah, I am. I'll stay behind. Why are you acting so heroic all of a sudden? You're some kind of idiot? Lotus was the first to speak. That in itself was a little strange. She'd reacted much differently when Ace had volunteered. I'm completely against this. I'll be goddamned if I'm going to have to owe you for getting out of here. The rest of them began to speak all at once. I'm against it too. I didn't want to leave Ace behind, and I don't want to leave you either. I don't like that idea. There's gotta be other options. I disagree as well. I can't say I care much for you being the hero. Finally, they quieted down. Junpei looked at Seven. Well, there you go, Seven. Proposal denied. Clover's right. There's gotta be a better way than this. Seven made some noise that was somewhere between a derisive snort and a cough. Doesn't make any sense. He was doing his best to pretend they were making a foolish decision, but Junpei could see the twinkling of water at the corners of Seven's eyes. That was when Santa spoke. Well, hold on a minute. I haven't said anything yet. Until then, Junpei hadn't realized that Santa had stayed quiet for the whole discussion of Seven's fate. Something in his voice made Junpei uncomfortable. Are you agreeing? You want to leave him here? Santa shook his head. Nah, I'm against it. I don't want to leave Seven here alone. Then I don't see how it matters. I said alone. Huh? I said I don't want to leave Seven alone. There was a dull shine in Santa's eyes. They were cold and hard. Junpei felt himself shiver. What the hell are you... What, you don't get it? I can't leave just one person. I need 2 more. 3 people, including Seven. I'll be leaving behind 3 people. That's my proposal. No. Those are my orders. What do you mean orders? What the hell makes you think you can order us around? Who the hell's gonna listen to you? You all will. In 3 seconds, you won't have a choice. What? 3, 2, 1. Santa was so fast, Junpei could barely see him. When he moved, it was almost like watching a dance, his feet moving like lightning. He spun and... Ah! He had June. See? I told you. His lips curled into a cruel, mocking smile. A shudder traveled the length of Junpei's spine. His chest froze and he could feel his breath go stale in his lungs. Nothing made sense. Junpei felt as though his head were about to explode. Santa's sudden change in attitude, saying that he needed 2 more, the gun in his right hand, a revolver? Santa had grabbed June from behind and pressed what Junpei's shaken brain identified as a revolver roughly against her temple. What was he doing with a gun? Where on earth had Santa possibly found a gun? Junpei's questions roared in his mind, but his mouth refused to ask them. Seven spoke, almost as though he had sensed Junpei's confusion. The gun's from the other room. What room? One of the rooms behind door 6. I should have known he was going to do this. I should have taken the gun. Well, it's too late now, fat ass. Damn it. A mixture of fury and frustration twisted Seven's face. He glared at Santa. Santa, for his part, didn't so much as flinch. The corner of his lip twitched into a slightly wider smile. Then the smile faded, and he began to move. He walked backward, dragging June with him. Before long, his back was resting against the door. On the wall next to him was the red. He put his hand on the scanner panel, and then forced June to do the same. Now, time for you to start following my orders. Ace, Lotus, congratulations. I've chosen you to come with me. Put your hands on the red. 3 + 6 + 1 + 8 = 18. That was what Santa had meant when he said he needed 2 more. Hey, you deaf? I gave you an order. Santa's eyes narrowed to slits. He glared at Ace and Lotus. They stayed frozen like deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming car. Right. Fine. I didn't want to waste any bullets, but you guys just don't get it. No sooner were the words out of Santa's mouth than his hand twitched, and the gun roared. A section of the floor exploded, scattering wooden splinters across the floor. A thin plume of smoke snaked out of the hole in the floor. There could be no doubt that the gun was real and worked. But why? Santa, why are you... Clover's voice spoke of betrayal and disbelief. Santa, I thought you were one of us. I thought we were friends. What? You knew about the leaf word and the 4-leaf clover. Santa's cheek twitched, almost imperceptibly. What the hell is that shit? I've got no idea. You're lying. Shut up. Just shut up, you stupid bitch. You want me to put a bullet in your fucking head? Flecks of spit flew from Santa's mouth, his face twisted with rage. Clover recoiled, her eyes wide. When she spoke, her voice was very small. Santa. He snorted, then shook his head vigorously and turned to face Ace and Lotus. All right, assholes, what are you still standing there for? Get over here and scan those bracelets. I don't have all day. Oh, what's the matter? Your hearing's starting to go? Going senile, maybe? Ace and Lotus still didn't move. Lotus continuing to not quite understand why everybody's picking on her for her age when she's clearly maybe in her 40s, maybe? It almost seemed as if they couldn't move. June's face was pale behind Santa's arm. Her eyes were wild and her chest heaved with every quick breath like an animal cornered by a predator. Junpei's mind worked furiously. What were they going to do? Then he realized something. There was nothing they needed to do. There was nothing to debate. June's safety was the first priority. That much was obvious. Doing as Santa had commanded meant that she would be safe from at least 2 threats. She wouldn't be shot, and she would leave the ship alive, along with Santa, Ace, and Lotus. There was only one thing for Junpei to do. He turned to Ace and Lotus. Please, go. Huh? But, Jumpy, what are you saying? If you stay here, you're gonna be stuck, Jumpy, and so will Clover and Seven. I know, but you don't need to worry about us. We'll figure something out. Right, Seven? Right. You just leave it to us. It's gonna piss me off to do what Santa says, but... Don't worry about me either. There's still something I have to take care of. But... No, you can't. Ace, Lotus, don't do it. Don't worry about me, please. June was almost crying. Junpei walked around behind Ace and Lotus. Without a word, he laid a hand on each of their backs and gently pushed them forward. Quick math. Okay, that's what I thought. They almost stumbled, then righted themselves and took another step, then another. They turned around, and Junpei nodded. Ace and Lotus turned around again and walked slowly toward the door where Santa was waiting for them. After what seemed like an eternity, they stopped in front of the door marked 9. Santa smiled. All right, now let's get those hands on the scanner panel. What's the holdup? What, you think I'm fucking around here? I don't give a shit about this girl. The red doesn't need a person, you know. All I need is the bracelet. You get it? Good. Now put your fucking hands on the scanner. I'm not gonna say it again. He shoved the revolver harder against June's head, and she winced. Fine. Ace sighed, defeated, and placed his hand on the scanner panel. Lotus went next. Lotus glared at Santa and slammed her hand onto the scanner panel. The fourth asterisk blinked on. Good job. Now Lotus, pull that lever. As soon as the door opens, you get your ass in there. Try anything stupid and you know what happens, right? Junpei could almost hear Lotus's teeth grind. Chunk. The door slid open. Door number 9 opened at last. It opened with a low, powerful rumble, a drum roll to welcome the chosen few. All right, go. Lotus and Ace walked through the door, their eyes furious, but defeated. Santa waited until they were all the way inside and hauled himself and June across the threshold as well. 6, 7, 8. Later. 9. After exactly 9 seconds, the door swung shut. The gust of air it created caused the candles in the altar to flicker and die. The room fell silent. Junpei, Clover, and 7 had been left behind. Clover looked down at her hand and traced with her finger the faint blue veins that crisscrossed them. 7 shoved his arms into the front of his overalls and scratched his stomach. No one spoke. Silence made the air feel thick and oppressive. Desperate for something, anything, to occupy his mind, Junpei walked to the larger of the 2 9DOORS. He stood in front of it and looked at the red. It read, engaged. He moved to the smaller door. The red read, vacant. The digital root of the remaining people was 7. 5, 4, 7 equals 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. There was no possible way for them to open a door with 9 on it. Junpei touched the surface of the door. He thought about June, about Akane Kurashiki. Was she safe? That was all that mattered to him. If she was alive, if she had escaped this horrible boat, that was what Junpei prayed for. 7 came up next to him. He pulled off his hat, scratched his head, and sighed. So, what do you want to do, Junpei? What do you mean, what do I want to do? What can we do? Seven opened his mouth to respond when a noise echoed through the room. Someone was pounding on something vigorously. It wasn't mechanical, it was certainly human. Junpei and Seven looked at one another. What the hell is that? Shh! Quiet! Clover motioned to Seven to be quiet. She put one finger to her lips and closed her eyes in concentration. The three of them listened, trying to determine where the sound was coming from. Where was it coming from? Could it be? Hey, I think it's coming from this coffin. You're right. Let's open it. But how? What are those muscles for? For show? You're telling me to force it open? Just shut up and try. Junpei and Seven grabbed hold of the coffin. They tried to get a good grip with what little purchase they could find and pulled with all their strength. Damn it. Man, I won't even budge. There was some sort of keypad attached to the coffin. Its purpose would not have been difficult to determine. Their eyes were almost immediately drawn to it. Not another one. Yeah, looks like it. Do you think we have to put in the right password or it won't open? I think so. The noise wasn't stopping. In fact, it was getting louder. They had no idea who was in the coffin, but they wanted out, and they wanted out now. They had no idea what they were supposed to do. Without a passcode, it didn't seem like there was a lot they could do. They couldn't even tell how many numbers the passcode needed to be. Isn't there a hint somewhere? Well, let's look for one. Unfortunately, there didn't seem to be anything near the coffin. Clover ran to examine the pews and Seven investigated the desk, but they turned up nothing. The sound still wouldn't stop. It wasn't a noise that belonged in that room. What was the passcode? What was Junpei supposed to do? How was he supposed to figure it out? He needed something. Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. Now it is time. Let our game begin. Would you like to keep the information you've gained during this playthrough? I suppose we have no choice. We've already accumulated all of these memories. Believe that. It's a coffin. Well, I suppose I'll see you next time when we will begin with memories.